Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Public Works Podcast. My name is Joseph Blackman, and today I got a real treat for you. Her name is Tanya Nash, and she is the Director of Engineering at Asphalt Testing Solutions and Engineering in beautiful Jacksonville, Florida. Tanya, say what's up to everybody.
Hi.
So, Tanya, you're the Director of Engineering. I kind of know what engineering is. A director is kind of one of those terms. It's like, oh, okay, cool. But give us the 30,000 foot view of what you do or kind of what you're over. And then we'll
Okay.
start diving into more of the topics.
Yeah, director is kind of like the fancy term of saying that I get blamed for things, I think. Um, it's more so we're a smaller company. ATS is under 30 people, technically, just as a group of people that are doing asphalt testing. And the director, from my point of view, is over the technical aspects of what happens, what direction we want to go in, who we want to interact with, where our business marketing strategies and customers are.
Okay, okay. And the the day to day, like what are asphalt
Mhm.
testing? Like, are you spending 4 hours a day staring at asphalt outside? Are you spending 8 hours a day on emails or Zoom calls? Give us a day in the life of Tanya, like a random Tuesday of what you're doing.
I think I've done all of those on an actual given day. The one thing that's nice about this job is that there are no 2 days that are exactly the same. And what you think you're going to come into that day or whatever is on your to-do list may never ever happen because things just kind of come through and hit you all at once. So one of the things is that it just depends on what's going on in the life of the asphalt world. And if somebody has an emergency, or if a project is suffering, or if somebody else needs you pulled into something else, it's a very dynamic and a very much a day to day, sometimes minute to minute type of decision of how your day is going to go, which is kind of fun.
Sure.
You don't really, I guess it's fun, but you don't really know what's going to happen the next day. You can try to
Gotcha.
plan for it, but got to be flexible.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll never make it.
Yeah, you said some people might call you for an emergency, and not necessarily like emergency, like ambulance, fire truck, but what would one of those asphalt emergencies look like?
So from my point of view, the emergency would end up being like a state project failure happened
Mhm.
and they needed addressed to say whether or not they can continue paving or do they have to pull off the job or do they have to shut things down for a while and not close the job. So they will need results pretty quickly, or if it's an absolute emergency, saying there's a term called slippage in asphalt pavements where the pavement is built in many different layers. And if the layers don't stick together, they tend to move
Mhm.
in relationship to each other. Well, if the road is not staying underneath the vehicles, that becomes a problem. So we want to make sure that we take care of any of those type of things. And if they're looking to say yes or no, somebody needs a number to hang their hat on to say, I'm signing this thing, saying no, we're taking this thing out, and it doesn't meet the standards that we're supposed to be. So those kind of things, if it is very much a safety issue, or if it is a large project pending, it's there's a thing also. We also deal with the liquid portion of it. We will deal with people that move asphalt liquid around the world, and so if their
Interesting.
boat or if their ship is sitting at the port and they're just waiting for test results, well, they don't have the luxury of wait. That's thousands and hundreds of
Yep.
thousands of dollars a day just waiting for tests to be finished. So we have some time constraints that we have to get on it if something just gets delivered that I need this. So we have to kind of respond in kind.
Interesting. Interesting. We'll dive into that, but I want to know the backstory of Tanya. Like, what makes the asphalt of Tanya? What the mix is. So, give us your career path from high school all the way up until today, and what you did on the way.
Well, my education, I went to the University of Florida and I was not in civil engineering. I was in biomedical engineering. So I
Interesting.
started thinking that I was going to design and develop implants and for lower extremities. That was my main goal. I was going to do orthopedics and I thought this was great. I graduated. And right at the time from where I was searching for a job, it was about 9/11, and the economy halted on me, and so did all of the tech jobs. And I interviewed and I sat and I waited, and I was fortunate enough to be doing teaching karate as well in Gainesville. And was a couple of the professors from civil engineering were in the class with me. We were stretching after class one day, and we started talking just in general. It was a very organic talk. How you doing? What are you doing? And he found out that my background is in fracture mechanics and materials. And he said, "Well, would you like to do some stuff while you're sitting around?" And I said, "Well, sure. Better than working at a bookstore and teaching karate, trying to make everything else meet." And so it is kind of that thing where it's like once you start in asphalt, you're either, if you get past the 1 year mark, you're stuck in it,
Oh, it's the
or
1 year mark. Okay.
yeah,
Other
or if
industries
you
are
leave
like two or
before the
three
one
years.
year, we
Yeah.
may never see you again. So um, it stuck to me. It was I'm very much a puzzle solver, right? Like I like doing the puzzle type of thing. And it then went from, I worked in civil engineering for a while, taught some graduate classes, did develop the course with my background in biomedical, did nanotechnology in relationship to civil materials. And then I moved from the University of Florida to the DOT. So Florida DOT, I was there for about 7 years, working in central office for state materials in Gainesville. And then I went to a private side. I went to consulting testing lab, and now I'm at a consulting contractor. And I've been here for the last 7+ years.
Wow. Okay. Okay. It's what that 1 year mark. I want to park on that for a little bit because it's interesting. You know, once you graduate high school or even college, once you get into the real world and have to start making, big human decisions, you start to figure out that like jobs are different than careers, or like jobs are different than industries. And so it's interesting. You were doing the bookstores and the karate, and then all of a sudden you met this person who said, "Hey, this is an interesting career path or interesting industry you should get into." And so talk to us what that first year looks like, because it's different on the public works side of water. It's different on the public
Mhm.
works side of like parks. So talk us through what that first year looks like, what gifts and skills and talents you attain that say if you can make it past that 1 year, you're going to be stuck forever. And if you don't make it through that first year, we probably will never see you again.
Mine, well, I'm going to go back on the idea. I wasn't stuck on an idea of it had to be, it had to
Okay.
be this way. And so I got very much that I have a workaholic background from my father. And just growing up in that environment, I was going to work and I was going to put my head down, make sure I got all my work done. And the more I did it, the more I got curious. I just went, well, what about that? The big thing that got me over that 1 year hump, I think, was just the autonomy that they gave me where I was. So at the university, in those labs, they just basically said, "Hey, we need this big pocket or this big bucket of stuff done." There was really no limit of time or, say, "Hey, we're paying you hourly right now, so just whatever you log, you log." And so it's really up to me to decide, whoa, do I want to keep doing this? Do I want to take my time and be bored? Do I want to really kind of find out what this is about? So curiosity truly got the better of me. And I went down that path of, hey, you know what? I'm going to play with this stuff and see what I can make out of it and figure it out, and I'm not going to be here at least 8 hours a day. I may as well do something with it instead of just staring at the wall. So it was more or less just making the lemonade out of the lemons and really kind of making the most out of the experience. I really enjoyed engineering in general. So whether or not it was with blood and bones compared to asphalt and rock, it was just the same concepts. The theories are the same. The applications, if you can think about them in those kind of senses, are very similar, within reason and constraint. You're still doing engineering. And if that's really what you were in for, then it just depends on how you frame the picture you're looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. let's talk misconceptions about the industry. I mean, every industry we think of, there's kind of a, a caricature, or like you might have seen a movie and they just overplay the, the stereotypes. So what do you think are some of the, since you're in the industry, like what are some of the stereotypes that you think people outside the industry have? And then also, since you're in it, like what are the people on the inside, stereotype about the industry?
Yeah, I think the biggest one on the outside is when you think of someone says, what are you doing? If you say you're in road construction, they think of the people that are in their way on the road in a construction zone or slowing them down, and the people saying, stop going so fast. And, but it's so much more than that. It's like the tip of the iceberg. Whereas all the science that has to go into trying making sure that that road was there to begin with, and then we restructure it as the growth of the community and as the growth of the vehicle traffic and everything else goes around it, it's still going to be there to get you from point A to B, right? So the parts that they don't see is all of that science that goes into it, and all the work and all the people that have to coordinate in order to make that happen. Yes, a little inconvenient at the time. And I know everybody's like, oh, I don't want to sit here. It's slowing me down. But ultimately, it is going to make a better way to get to things. It's going to make it easier. And realistically, I mean, you could be on dirt roads. What if we didn't have any?
True.
So,
yeah. Okay.
So,
And then those who are in the industry, like, what do they feel about it? Like, what's kind of the flag you wish you could fly to say, hey, this isn't us. This is what we do instead of what you think we do.
So I think there's several different facets of civil engineering, as you know, between you get water to soils to even structurals, and the first thing people think of as civil is either bridges or dirt. And it seems like there's no in between. And I think the idea that there's so many pockets that are inside this giant bucket of civil engineering is really important to understand, because people spend their lifetimes in one little pocket rather than branching out to see that all these other things exist. And I think it's worthwhile for people to really kind of not necessarily know every single one, but know that they're out there and know that, how they interact.
Yeah. What would you say is one of the biggest skill sets you had to pick up to be successful at what you do today? Like somebody asked you, hey, Tanya, what should I get good at? What's the main thing I should pick up to be good at what you do today? What would that skill set be?
I'd say it's actually two main things. One would be empathy. Empathy in the terms of understanding that every problem has several parties involved, and every party feels like their feelings are the most important. And it's like anybody that comes to you with a problem, their problem is the most important, even though I had 20 people in front of me. It's more so the being able to really kind of put yourself in those people's shoes and feel the pain that they're really trying to convey, and then understand it in the sense that you are able to talk to the level of everybody involved. And that's super important, trying to make sure that either a specification gets written properly, understand, what is the worry of the owner, maybe that, oh my gosh, are they going to do this right? Make sure, say, this is what's going to cover you. This is what's going to make sure this happens. The contractor not being over policed, saying, look, we're going to make sure that you have a clause in here, blah, blah, blah. So just really trying to understand the different windows that everybody has to look through, and understand that each one of them don't have the full picture. And so trying to put that picture together for them is really kind of one of those big things that have helped me.
Interesting.
The second one, because I worked at the DOT and then I went to the private side, I call it thinking outside the box from inside the box. And so it's basically there's not a lot of wiggle room, right? The black and white spec is the specification. There's not a whole lot of, maybe we can do it this way. And there's no room to make a contract that way. So how do we make that outside the box thinking fit inside this box? And so it's really about that critical or creative thinking element How do you solve that puzzle? So
Yeah, yeah. What's the collaboration like? Like, where does Tanya go to I don't know, to find people who have solved a certain problem a certain way that you might need solved? Is there like a asphalt industry watering hole to find, like where could somebody on the public works side go to get their sword sharpened to be able to find better information to operate more efficient?
well, number one, we're here.
Okay.
So
I like
shameless plug,
it.
sorry. So I lean on my network that I've developed over 20 plus years. It's very much a network type of industry. You are never going to individually know everything you possibly need to know. It's just impossible. So the best thing that you could do is know who does know that. And so the idea of work smart, not hard, really plays into this. And the organizations, we are involved in many organizations nationally and locally, and we make sure that we stay involved as much as we can, so that if we call on somebody, we're not a complete stranger calling them up going, hey, I need some information, can you just send me this? It's relationships that we have developed and things that we can kind of lean on. We try to also contribute as much as we possibly can to a lot of the editing of publications, like for the National Asphalt Pavement Association. We help do some of those edits whenever we can. We work with the National Center of Asphalt Technology as much as we can. Currently on the steering committee for that group, and trying to be visible to people so that as much as I help them, they're going to turn around and be willing to help me. So
Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. It's story time. I need a story from
uh-oh,
Tanya. When
uh-oh.
something went wrong under your watch, what you did to
Mhm.
fix it, and then what lessons you learned from it to apply to your future career.
Oh yeah, I thought long and hard about a situation, and one that I'm not super proud of was I think it was my first expert witness case, and
Explain.
I
Yeah.
yeah,
Why are you an expert your expert witness on a case?
it was, well, so as a professional engineer, you can be called on as an expert witness to the material, saying, what do you think? Was this done properly? Does this look right? Is this normal? This, that, and the other. Well, as we were going through it, it was the first time I was deposed, and it was the first time I had to go through any of the legal proceedings that were in relationship to that. And I kind of went through it, and I thought I was good. And then I was like, yeah, okay, I got this. I'm going to really kind of tell this story. And it really emphasized the language used in order to properly state what you're trying to say. And I think a lot of what I was trying to say did not come out clearly enough that it didn't end well
Interesting.
on the team that I was representing. And I feel like a lot of that probably was coming out of my mouth, saying, oh, maybe I went the wrong direction, or it was misinterpreted, or just knowing how to properly state things so not left up to interpretation. It's clear
Interesting.
and it's concise. And so language,
Is that
learning to listen to myself and language.
is that like a function of you haven't been in the industry that long and you might not have all the nomenclature, the verbiage, or is it a function of like, hey, your nerves are flying around and because you're you're in court, you're an expert witness and you're like, I get nervous when I'm on stage and I start talking crazy because I'm nervous.
Yeah, and I think it's the second. I felt like I knew it. I knew what I was talking about, but I think from the perspective of, oh, well, I know it, and you're talking to a judge who probably has no idea half the words that are coming out of your mouth. And I think I took it for granted. And the idea, or the next skill set would be the ability to take something very technical and speak to it very plainly. Right. So that is something that I have worked on since that moment, because I went, uh-oh. And that was one that really kind of opened my eyes on perception of speech.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um, we talked about like where others can go to kind of find information, but I want to know Tanya's personal and professional development regimen. Like, what are you reading books in the industry? Are you going to seminars? Like, do you have a group chat of all the top asphalt people in the country and you guys are bouncing questions off of each other? Like, kind of what's your tempo and pace to be able to put new information into your brain?
Yeah, I like to find the research, right? I track the research. So every January there's a giant transportation meeting, a conference that all international transportation groups have converge on DC. And it's usually, I think they said about 10,000 to 15,000 people, and
Oh,
they
wow.
end up going in, and it's every facet of transportation is in there. The one reason, the one reason I like it is because of the breadth of information that you have access to just by walking down the hall. And although if you are not a people person, I do not suggest going. It is like an introvert's nightmare. um, but it is access to all of your up and coming and your top researchers that are presenting their information either for the first time or as is finalizing, and things that are going on right now in the industry. So a lot of that, what I try to do is participate in a lot of the committees, so I get to review the papers that are coming in. So I get to see some of the new stuff that's being developed. The other thing is that I like to participate in a lot of the webinars that are available through our organizations.
Okay.
So they offer a bunch of them, whether or not it's about the legislative, what the new election has brought to us, from the legislation and highway bill, all the way down to, hey, this is a new test and this is how we're going to run it. And I just, any chance I get to be able to just plug in for 30 minutes, maybe an hour over there.
Yeah.
And if it's a recording, even better. I'm the
Oh.
first one up in my household on the weekend. So I just turn that thing on and I am good to go. So.
On the weekends. I love it. When you're out and about, let's say you're, doing an association meeting or you're, on a sales call or whatever, you're talking about asphalt testing solutions and engineering. What do you think people think about what your company does? And then also, what do you wish your company was known for? Or like that home run call that you could get, that you could say, we do that or we fix that.
Yeah. So I think people, from a national industry viewpoint, people understand we're third-party testing, which usually they think, okay, we're a testing lab. And that's really kind of as far as people kind of bring their thought process to it. I feel like we are much more than that. We have a lot of background in DOT. We have personnel that have history and careers that were made in the DOT. We're also attached to an asphalt producer. We're on the property of an asphalt producer, so we understand construction and processes. And so from a consulting, education, and just an all-around resource for people, besides just testing, we're there. I feel like we check all those boxes. And I think that if people can get over the hurdle of thinking just past the testing part, that would kind of complete the picture.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I always like to ask the question, like, let's say you get 30 seconds to advertise for the Super Bowl. What message would you want to get across to not just the industry, the public works or, engineering industry, but just to society about what you guys do and who you guys are?
That we provide innovative asphalt materials and testing for that people drive on for the future needs. And it's really mostly about advancing and giving this a look of being able to continually stay up with technology in the pavements and that transportation world.
Okay. And then I like to talk more about the silver tsunami. Those who are leaving the industry, they have all the knowledge, wisdom, information, and they're exiting. And the younger generation, we have to learn. We have to, sometimes bump our heads when we could have got it from that person who left. So what have you seen that has helped that transition of institutionalized knowledge from one generation to the next?
I think the push on workforce development has really helped. And I think within the last maybe 10 years or so, that has been a big deal to a lot of people and a lot of organizations. The recognition that that is necessary to push information and knowledge down and out is really, really important. And I, not to just promote on, hey, you've been here for 10 years, it's time for you to move up. It's more so of, hey, look, there are leaders out there and they come in all shapes, sizes, and forms, all levels. Let's recognize them. Let's promote them. Let's duplicate them and really kind of push them out there. And I think through those leaders, we'll be able to get that knowledge kind of spread out a lot quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I always like to leave a space on the show for you to thank mentors that you had along your journey. And then I want you to give a word of inspiration and motivation to your fellow, let's say, asphalt engineer testing counterparts across the country.
I actually have 3 primary mentors in my life. And I would say that Jim Musselman at the Florida DOT was a huge, huge one. And the bulk or the primary portion of my career, he was there, guided me through it, and really kind of mentored me almost like a father. And I would say my second one would be Steve McReynolds. He actually works with me now. He was actually the one that brought me into ATS. And when he was at the DOT, I always kind of looked at him as like, man, when I grow up, that's the one I want to be like. It was always kind of that. He always had a way of explaining things to you, never condescendingly, but always that idea of like, hey, let's learn. Let's do this in such a way that it always made me more interested by the time we were done. And then, of course, my parents, my father, like I had mentioned, more of that workaholic, and I think it kind of transferred that way. But just understanding the work ethic portion, being able to transfer it into work-life balance and being able to really coordinate with family and loved ones and still enjoy everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. And then those out there, they might be in the middle of the road right now. They got their hard hat on with their work boots and their yellow vest, and they're fighting the same battles you're fighting. What do you say to inspire them to keep motivated?
Say it's never done, or nothing is ever done until you say it's done. Right?
Okay.
I mean, until you actually say, hey, I give up. I'm done. I'm over it. So I would say any goal that you have, persevere through it. It's going to have ups and downs. And if it's important to you, you need to prove it to yourself, not anybody else. Right? My PE exam is a prime example. I had to take that thing 4 times. And it was one of those mountains that I just never thought I would get over the top of, but I finally did. And it was a very big struggle in the time frame, but ultimately it was worth it. And I knew I was going to die trying. It was going to get there. But yeah, for sure. It's basically never say never and never give up. So.
Okay. All right. Let's say I'm coming to town. I'm coming to Jacksonville, Florida. And I text you ahead of time. I say, Tanya, where can I go to get the best burger in Jacksonville? Where are you going to send me?
So I struggled trying to think of burger. Okay. I was like, oh man, this place does have a decent burger. But then I thought, okay, where you want to go for actually good food is Bar Taco. So Bar Taco I found in Tampa when I was there. But then they finally got one in Jacksonville. I was so excited. I've probably been there 3 or 4 times already. And I was so excited that they came, and they have a phenomenal, it's a very much smaller menu with tacos, bowls, and a fantastic drink list. So mostly known for their tequila, because they have a great tequila lounge up top, but very authentic, like, a little bit street taco sized tacos and some great, fresh, clean food. And it's just so good.
Okay.
You want to go right now.
Bar Taco it is. Tanya, thank you for hopping on the podcast today. Thank you for sharing your wealth of information and knowledge. Yeah. Where can people find more about you and also Asphalt Testing Solutions and Engineering?
So you can find it on our website at asphalttesting.info. So all together, just asphalttesting.info, and just kind of read about us and see how we developed and see what we do.
Okay. All right, Tanya, once again, thanks for hopping on the podcast. This has been the Public Works Podcast, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in.